I would like to focus very much on planning for change and actually what the proactive homework that industry must do in order to manage uncertainties. Because change is difficult. It does mean that you understand what is coming, you understand your needs, and that you interact and you anticipate. And you would say, well, that's easy said, but EU legislation is very unpredictable. There is a lot of legal uncertainties. I guess that everybody would more or less agree with that statement in the room. Difficult to know what the scope and the definition is. Probably yes, not always, and it's a very actually participative process, I would say. Because I will claim the opposite. The EU policy and legislative developments are quite predictable, relatively transparent, and very slow, very slow. And starting 2014, but actually in 2006 already there was EU legislation on PFAS. But in 2014, EPPA has set up a group together with member states and the Commission to work on PFAS. So when EPPA is setting up a working group, that work will be actually leading to scientific research and identification of in what direction we are heading. These are signals. So obviously, Council conclusions, is it something that really the departments are looking into that internally within the companies? Council conclusions already in 2019 was calling for ban of non-essential uses of PFAS. And that was backed up by the European Parliament in their motion for resolution calling for proper strategy. So when you have the two main co-legislators calling on the Commission to take action, what the Commission does is typically they take action. And in the middle of the COVID crisis, and counterintuitively, we had the publication of the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, which was very precisely predicting that the proposal to restrict on non-essential use of PFAS will come between 2022, 2024. Question is actually the strategies are not just abstract documents, they're actually planning ahead what the scope of the legislative initiatives would be. Preparing means understanding and anticipating what is coming next, but then understanding your own portfolio. Supply chains are complex, supply chains are not necessarily caring that much about EU legislation, and it takes time to understand what are your real needs and then plan for the transition. We should not also forget about member states, because we see as well a lot of initiatives coming through the member states, but also, and very unwisely so, at national level, some member states are trying to push the agenda. If you see restrictions coming at national level, and France is a good example, you will see this scope replicated at EU level for sure, sooner or later. Here I outline the stream of the restriction actually process, with the dossier submitted and ECHA committee's discussion, you know it by heart by now, certainly, then the Commission making the proposal, with member states voting on it, and Parliament and Council coming at the end potentially to veto, but they never do. And the window opportunities for contribution, the biggest is the call for evidence. This is probably the most underestimated phase, where you can communicate all kind of data that you deem necessary to the authorities. The proposal is not yet there, so the more you inform, the better you have the chances actually that your specificity and your specific needs are taken into account. So to conclude on that, make sure that you incorporate in your business strategy the policy aspects, the long-term policy and regulatory plans of the EU. Understanding your portfolio is absolutely critical. It's your baby, you know it the best. Constantly gather intelligence of what's going on, evaluating the impacts, but most importantly, engage. Make sure that the institutions understand your case and that you do your part of the homework.